Morning.
Okay, let me share my screen. Okay. So first of all, were you guys able to do the assignment that I gave you guys in the last class? I know Shweta was working on it. Who else has worked on the assignment?
I didn't finish it completely, but yeah, I was, able to do whatever I was doing. I didn't
Okay,
have difficulty.
awesome. Okay. So today, guys, we are going to talk about triggers. It's a very important topic, and also from interview preparation, it is a pretty good topic to learn is the triggers. Okay. So first of all, what are triggers? So trigger basically is a piece of code that gets executed whenever something happens in the database. Okay. So for example, if let's say you created a new account record, or you deleted an account record, or you updated an account record, or any of those standard objects. So anytime you make a change to the database, if there is a trigger associated with that record, okay, if there is a trigger, that trigger logic will get executed on its own. It is not something that you invoke it. You never invoke a trigger. The trigger implicitly behind the scene uh, gets called. Okay. So there are different types of triggers. So we have before triggers, okay, and then you have another type of trigger is the after triggers. So before trigger is basically before the record is being inserted, or before the record is being updated, or before the record is being deleted. So that is what we have is the before trigger. Similarly, we have after triggers like after insert, after update, after delete, after undelete. So all of those are the after triggers. Okay. Now, Apex or Salesforce has given some variables that are called as context variables. And basically, the variables are trigger.new, okay, trigger.new, then trigger.old. These are some of the context variables. Now, trigger.new will basically hold, let's say you are creating the new set of account records. So trigger.new will hold the newly created account. Trigger.old, for example, you are trying to update a record, and let's say you're trying to update an account record, and on the account record you are changing the industry from blank value to a technology value. Okay, so right before you had an account record that had a value of industry equals to none, and then you updated it to technology. So trigger.old will hold the old version of the records. Okay, so old version of the record means at the point where the industry was blank, and trigger.new will hold the new version of the records, means after the update has been done. So that is the difference between trigger.new and trigger.old. So any questions so far, guys, on trigger? Okay. Can I get a thumbs up from everybody? Okay, great. So let's start it again. What is an Apex trigger? So an Apex trigger is a piece of code that automatically executes. So always remember, it automatically executes. You're not calling this class, or you're not calling this trigger before or after specific database events. Means whenever there is a change in the database, when I talk about database, means your records have been either updated, inserted, deleted. Whenever those things happen, the trigger is the code that will get executed. Okay. Triggers run automatically when data changes in Salesforce. So if you have a trigger related to that, that trigger will get executed. Now, why do we need to have triggers? What is the purpose? So first of all, let's say you have validation rules, you have flows, you have workflow rules, all of these are available. Then why do we need triggers? So triggers basically, if you have to write a complex logic, means it involves several conditions, several child records, from the parent to the child. Right now, flows does a lot of things, but when it comes to bulk processing, then flows get very confusing. So in those cases, writing triggers is much more easier and easy to maintain as well. So when you have a logic that is little complex, or when you have logic which involves multiple records, or cross object updates, means from here you want to update this record and then from there you want to update another record. So when there is cross object updates, or performance and bulk handling means when you have more than one records or large set of records to handle at a time. So in those cases you will need triggers. Now, for example, right now you can, there are, for example, if you want to prevent the deletion of records based on certain condition, like, okay, if the account is active, if the account has associated opportunities, if the account has associated cases, prevent the deletion of that account. So if there is something like this, a little complex logic involving multiple objects, then in that case, flow might not be the right solution. You will have to go with the trigger. Okay, so if you want to auto create related records, now auto creation of related records, if Flow can do it, but if based on certain conditions you want to create the related records, in those cases the trigger will be better. If you have complex business rules, then also trigger would be a better solution. So if you compare Flow and triggers, flows can do majority of the things a trigger can do, but flows also it becomes too big to handle sometimes, and the logic is, if it is too complex and if it's bulk processing involved, then trigger would be a better solution. Okay, now trigger can run on different events. When I said events, means anytime a change happens in a Salesforce record, that is an event. Now what kind of event is it? Is it a before insert, which means that before the record gets committed to the database, okay? Uh, if you have a trigger related to before insert, then that trigger will be fired. Before the record gets updated or committed to the database, then that is a before update event. Then you have a before delete event, means a record before it gets deleted. If you want to verify, is it okay to delete those records? Okay, and after, as I mentioned, is after insert. Once the record has been inserted, you want to go ahead and update other additional records, or after the record has been inserted, you want to make a call out. After the record has been deleted, you want to do delete some other records. After undeleting means once the records have been recovered, if you want to do something, then that is the after undelete. So you have 3 before events and 4 after events. Okay, before insert, before update, before delete. You have after insert, after update, after delete, and after undelete. Any questions, guys? Okay. So how do you write a trigger? The way to write a trigger is similar to writing any Apex class. So whatever logic you have heard so far, creating a class, methods, all of that works similar to in the triggers also. So trigger basically will have a name and it will start with the keyword trigger. So the Apex class starts with the keyword class, whereas a trigger starts with the keyword trigger, then a name of the trigger, and then the keyword on, an object name, means what is this trigger tied to, which object it is tied to. So if there is a trigger for account, it will be called as trigger, account trigger, on, account object, and events. Events means when will this trigger get fired? Is it anytime an account record gets inserted, before it gets inserted, or after it gets inserted? So you will specify the events on which the trigger will get fired. Okay, so for example, here in this case, you can see a trigger. This is an example. So account trigger is the name of the trigger on the account object, and then this trigger gets fired on before insert. Now this is only one event, but you can have another event as a comma separated. So you can say after insert, after delete, all of that. So you can have a comma separated. So what will happen is this trigger logic will get executed before the record is inserted, after the record is inserted, after the record is deleted. So in all these scenarios, the trigger is going to be called. Okay. So now this is, as I mentioned to you, trigger.new. So before insert, I mean, before the record gets inserted, you want to check that, okay, this is these fields populated, or based on the logic, is this the correct value for those fields? So what you're going to do is this trigger.new is a context variable, which is given to you by Apex. And what will it hold? It will hold the newly created account records. Those have not yet committed to the database. When I committed to this database means the transaction is committed and and it's saved to the database. Okay. Now trigger.new will hold what? So let's say you had 14 records and now you added 2 more account records and you clicked on hit save. Now before it hits the save button, before that save, like before that record gets committed to the database, this trigger would be called, and trigger.new will hold the current state of these 2 newly created account records. Okay. So if you want to check, is these account records have the right values in them, then what you're going to do is you will verify it inside of this, or if you want to pre-populate some fields, then you can go ahead and do that uh, inside of the trigger. Usually in real world, whenever you go for your real job, triggers will have a very minimal logic inside of them. So they usually follow a trigger framework where trigger will basically call a handler class, and handler class will call another service class, and then where the whole exact logic would be written. So trigger just is used to navigate from trigger to its specific handler classes. So the logic in trigger is pretty bare minimum. Okay, that is a good practice. And always remember to create one trigger per object. Okay, don't create multiple triggers on an object because it becomes very confusing and also hard to debug. So always remember it's a good practice for one trigger per object. And then through that trigger, you can call different functionalities based on if it's an after trigger, if it's a before trigger, if it's an after insert, after delete, all that logic you will define. Okay, so now what are the trigger context variables? So these are basically some variables that are given to you to use. Okay, so trigger.new will hold the new version of the records, which means that before they get saved to the database, before they get committed to the database, what is their values currently? Okay, so trigger.new will hold new version of the record. Trigger.old will hold old version of the record. Means let's say you are updating an account record. Trigger.old will have the old values of that account record. Trigger.new will have all the new values of that account record. So if you want to compare what was the old value, what was the new value, you can use trigger.old. Now, this is going to give you a list of records. Okay. Whereas trigger.new map, it's a map, and map is of the ID. Okay, map is usually it's an ID and the account record. Okay, so the new account record that you're trying to create, that record. So it's an ID and then the account record. That is what the new map will hold. So it pretty much hold everything what new holds, but this is a map versus this is a list. Okay. Old map will hold the ID of the
Why,
record.
sorry, why do we need the two things then? I mean, why
See,
map is also needed?
because if you wanted to, it's just like why do you need a list versus a map? Okay, so if you wanted to retrieve based on the ID, give me the current version of that record, that's when you're going to use a new map. Once we do the some examples, things will get a little bit more clear, but basically this is much more easier to handle a new map because it gives you ID and then account related to that. So if you want to compare that, okay, give me the new account values and what was the old account values, you will use trigger.new map and trigger.old map. to
So is
compare.
it that object, I mean, if it is an account object, so it is that account ID of that particular record or
Yes,
it is some
yes, it's
trigger
the
ID?
ID of the account record.
Okay, so in new record, we will actually be having the ID and
But it
in
is going to
addition
be
to it,
just account.
okay.
So let's say, okay, let's say you're trying to insert an account record. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Now that account record, so if you are doing a so in this case, if you have account record, now then what was going to happen is this account record will have the new like
List of
description,
account.
industry, all of that.
Yeah,
Okay.
list, a complete list of the
Complete
record.
list
Yeah.
of those account records. And the trigger.new map will have the ID of this record, okay, comma with the same account record. So if you want to fetch, give me the account record based on the ID, you can use a map operator.
Okay.
Okay.
So in
Now,
that way, I mean, Deepika, if it is for new record, you are gonna
then you
insert
won't have
the
the ID.
ID, right? Yeah.
Yeah, then you won't. If it is a new record, the record has not been yet saved into the database, then it will not have the ID because ID has not yet been created.
So in that way, we cannot use new map.
No, then in that case, new map generally is used when you are in a update scenario before update and you want to compare what was the old version of the records versus what is the new version of the records. So in those
Okay.
cases, you will use trigger.new map and trigger.old map.
Okay.
Then trigger is insert. So if you want to check, is the trigger is an insert trigger, which means, hey, did you just inserted a record? Okay, then it was going to be telling you a true value if it is inserting a record. If the trigger was update, which means, hey, did this trigger got fired when you updated a record? Then there is, in order to figure out that, there is a variable called trigger is update, trigger dot is update. It will return you true if you updated the record and the trigger got fired. If you deleted the record and you want to know was it called on delete, then is delete will give you a true value and it tells you this was a delete event. The trigger got fired because you did a delete. Then you have is the trigger is before, is after, and is executing. So is before, if you want to know, hey, is this trigger before trigger means, hey, before you inserted a record or before you updated a record, that's when is before will give you true. So these is before, is insert, is update, all of them are going to give you Boolean values. Either will give you true or either will give you false. Okay. Trigger dot is after means after the record has been saved or after the record has been inserted, after update, after delete, then all those is after trigger. So this will return you true if that trigger if the trigger code got fired after the record has been updated. So for example, let's say you created a trigger, okay, and the trigger is on the account object, and if you wanted to, it gets fired on all the events before insert, before update, after insert, after update, all of that, after insert, and then you have after update. Now, let's say you want to run a particular piece of code only if it is a before. So then you will check, hey, is before, and then you are going to see in is before, it could be before insert and before update. It could be before update and before insert and before update, right? So is before can be both of them. So let's say you want to check trigger is before, you run into this code. Trigger is after, then you have another piece of code that you want to execute. Now, then let's say in the before, if there is, it's an insert, then you wanted to go ahead and execute another class. If it is an update, you want to do something else. So that is when you will use these context variables to jump from one execution to the other. And here you can check, because the same trigger will be called for insert, for update, for after insert, after update. So how do you know that, okay, if it is an insert, do this. If it is in update, do this. So this is when you will use the context variables.
So Deepika, what is difference between trigger.new and trigger.is
Cool.
after?
Okay, trigger.isAfter is just going to tell you, was this trigger created, was this trigger fired after the record has been updated or after the record has been installed?
Okay.
So trigger.isAfter is going to give you a Boolean value.
Okay, got it.
Okay, trigger.new will give you the newly
record.
created records.
Got it.
Okay.
Yeah.
So now let's go ahead and do some examples to illustrate what triggers actually are. So for example, here, the scenario is once, okay, before I jump to the examples, are you guys have any questions, any doubts, anything before we go to the example part? Okay. So here, let's say you wanted to, once an opportunity is closed won, you want to prevent any user changing the account or the close date. So if let's say you are on the opportunity record and that opportunity record has moved to closed won. Once that record has moved to this particular stage, you cannot update the amount or close date. Before it is in closed won, you can do whatever. But moment you have changed the status of the opportunity to closed won, you should not be allowed to change update the amount or the close date. Let's say this is the requirement. Okay, so what will you do? First of all, what kind of trigger it's going to be? So before the record is updated, right? So it's a before update because you want to throw an error if you're trying to change amount or close date. If you've already changed the amount or close date, then what is the point? Right? So how do you know if what kind of trigger it is? Means it is a before update because before you update the account or close date, you want to throw an error to the end user saying you cannot change the amount or close date because the opportunity is closed won. So once the record is updated to closed won, you want to prevent the change of amount or close date. Okay, so what we will do here is I'm going to go here and first of all, let's say we are in the opportunities. Okay. And let me delete some existing triggers because it might cause problems while executing. So let me go ahead and make sure there are no existing triggers. So you will go here to the setup and look for triggers. We do have 2 triggers on it. So let me go ahead and delete those. And delete this one as well. Okay. So now let's say this is your opportunity records. Okay. Now here, right now, this particular opportunity is in qualification. Let's say I wanted to move it to the closed and move it to the closed one. Now, once it has moved to the closed one, so you can see here, this opportunity is moved to closed one. If somebody tries to change the amount, let's say it changes the amount to this value, I should get an error message. It should not allow the opportunity amount to change. So this is what my scenario is. So what I'll do here is I'll go over to the developer console. And here you will go to the file, new trigger. So Apex trigger. Now, what is the name of the trigger? Let's say it's opportunity. Now, on which trigger it should be, or on which object it should be, right? You want to prevent the update on the opportunity. So you will write a trigger for the opportunity object. So here we will select it is a alphabetical order. So O comes here. We will go ahead and hit this. So this is your trigger. Which object it is? It is on the opportunity object. And the event is before update. Okay. So before you update the record, now what do you want to check? So what will be the scenario? First, we want to know what is the status of that opportunity. Okay, what is the stage of the opportunity, not the status. What is the stage of the opportunity? If the stage of the opportunity is closed won, okay, if the stage of the opportunity is closed won, and you are trying to change the amount value, which means that the old amount is not equals to the new amount. If something like this happens, you want to throw an error. This should be your pseudocode, right? First, you're only interested in the opportunities which are in closed one. Okay. Then you are checking, okay, once you got, if that opportunity is in closed one, the next condition you're checking is, okay, is the old amount on that opportunity has changed to a new value? And if it changed, throw an error. So before you update the record, this error would be thrown if you're trying to update the amount. So let's write the logic here. So this is the entire logic. So I'm going to go ahead and, so let's go ahead and do this. Okay. So let's understand. So trigger dot of new will give you the newer version of that record. Okay. So here, if you want to know what was the old version of the record, okay, so there, this is how you do trigger dot of old map dot get opportunity ID. So this is going to give you the old opportunity, which means before you hit the amount change, what was the present, what was the values of the opportunity record at that time. Okay, so here what you did, you're using trigger dot of old map. Now this is what trigger dot of old map is a map of what? Map of ID and the opportunity record. So you are saying, give me the, based on the ID. Now ID would be where? OPP dot of ID will give you the ID of the record. So give me, let's say XYY was the ID and opportunity 1 was stored. X01 was another ID and opportunity 2 was stored. And all these two together you are updating. Okay, let's say you did a data loader operation and you are updating multiple opportunities at the time. So this trigger will fire for all those opportunities. Okay, so first you're saying, okay, trigger.new will give you both of these things. Okay, this is trigger not new. It will give you the map of this will also be there and this would be there. Then you are saying, give me the old opportunity value based on the opportunity ID. So let's say opportunity 1 old value of the amount was 14,000 and here the amount was 15,000. Now you are trying to update, okay? So the same opportunities you're trying to update. So you will have XYY OPP1, the new value which is not yet committed to the database is 16,000. Similarly, X01 is the ID. This is for the opportunity 2. The new value is 17,000. So this trigger.old map will give you this map. Trigger.new map will give you this map. Okay, now you are saying trigger.old map.get opportunity ID, and you basically are iterating over one opportunity by after the other. So first time old map will give you this entry, this record. You are checking, is the stage name of this old opportunity is closed one? You're checking, hey, is this opportunity stage is closed one? If it is, and the opportunity amount is not equals to the old opportunity amount, means you are making a change here. And so this is an or again, or you are updating the close date on the opportunity, which means the old opportunity close date is not equals to new opportunity close date. Okay, so this is the if block. Now, if this is true, if you are changing it, then it is going to give you an error. So this is the method you can call add error to throw the error to the UI. So this was going to give you an error message. Amount and close date cannot be changed after closed one. And if you are not updating amount or close date, then anything else can be changed on the opportunity. Are you getting my point?
Yeah, that was what I was thinking, because once it is closed, it is the end of the story. The system won't let you change anything. It's closed.
System won't let you change, but this is the trigger which prevents it to do that. Right now, as I shown you before I created this trigger, I was able to update it. I was able to update the amount because this trigger wasn't there to prevent it. Okay.
Okay, thanks.
Now, anybody else have any questions? So anybody else, so you know what will trigger.old map will hold, what will trigger.new map will hold. what is the what are you checking? This old versus this amount means what is the new amount on the opportunity? What was the old amount on the opportunity? Were they equal? If they were equal means nothing changed. If they were not equal means something changed. If it changed means I want to throw an error.
Okay. Deepika, here we used old map. Can we also use only trigger.old? Will it be the same?
No. So if you do trigger.old, this will give you just the old opportunities records. Now, how will you compare? Okay, you can use it, but the thing is, how will you compare the like which got changed when? Like this map is easier to work with because you can get the record ID and then you can get the record. But if you use trigger dot of old, it is just going to give you the old version of the record. You can try using it actually. Let's see. So if this is the opportunity, old opportunity, trigger dot of
Trigger.old dot get.
no, you
Is
can't
it
do
there?
that. You
Okay,
cannot.
that's what I'm asking. Is there
Because see, get you cannot do it because the get is only on the index.
okay.
Remember in the list
All right.
of
Yeah.
0, list of 1, list of 2, list of 3. So you cannot do get operation.
Okay. That's what I'm just trying to understand, when to use old new and when to use old
When
map,
you
new
have to
map.
compare the records, then you will use old map versus new.
Okay.
Okay, old map.
Yeah.
So you will use old map because old map and new map because one will give you the new version of the records, the other will give you the old. So this is giving you new version of the record.
Yeah.
And this is giving you the old version of the record. And here you are comparing old and the new, and you're comparing the old close date versus the new.
Okay.
For the new one, we don't need the ID map, so that's why you're just using the new, not the new map, right?
See, because the trigger.new is giving me all the list of opportunities.
I mean,
Okay.
with the record ID and everything, you mean?
Yes. That is why it is able to do op.did dot of ID. Because before you update the record, that record was existing.
Yeah.
If I use a if loop, I mean, if I have a opportunity OPP old which is equal to trigger.new, and if op.id is equal to op old.id, does that work?
Okay, come back again, what you're saying?
In the for loop, like we have a variable for opportunity, which is having trigger new record.
Yeah, new records, yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
So can we have a variable where we can have it op old is trigger.old? And then can we compare the IDs and then loop it?
So you can do that, but then it's going to be becoming too complex for you.
Okay, just as we will have to use the if loop and all that,
Yeah,
right?
if loop. So
Okay.
you can say, but, okay, I'll tell you why it won't work. See, how will you know the order? So let's say trigger.new gave you the list of newly
New
created.
record.
Now
Right.
trigger.old gave you the older version.
Yes.
So how will you know that, okay, for this account, this is the older version? That's why map is very important, because map you can figure out specifically, okay, based on the ID, give me this specific record.
If old app dot ID is equal to old
Okay, if
new dot,
old,
does that work?
what are you saying? If
op ID is equal to op old ID, does that work?
op.id equals to
Op old dot ID
op old
dot ID.
ID. No, it won't work.
It won't? Okay.
No, because see, this list can be how will you specify that, okay, this is the newly created records and this is the let's say you had 5 records. In new opportunity, it can, in the trigger.new, account 1, account 2, account 3, and account 4 was there. In the old, it might be account 4, account 3, account 1, account 2. So if you compare, this might not be equal.
Okay.
So that's why when you do trigger dot of old map, you can basically get a map of ID and the opportunities. Then you can say this is one. So let's say this is how you can do it. Okay.
That op.id is opportunity ID or op.record ID. What is that ID holding?
The record ID of the opportunity.
Okay, that's why it will be different.
Yeah. Because
of the new record?
Of the of the record that you're trying to update. So let's say
Because the op is having the list of new records, right?
trigger.new means the newer version of the record. So for example, let's do this. This is an opportunity. Okay. You had one, OPP2 and OPP3. These are three opportunities that you basically updated through data loader. So you can do bulk testing. Okay.
Record ID will be the same for the old and the new, right?
Exactly. The
Okay,
record ID
got
will
it.
always
Got
be.
everything.
Yeah.
It's not the primary key of the object. It is
No, it
record
is
ID.
that record. When you say op.id means the
That's where the confusion was. I thought it's the opportunity ID. So I was like, why are they both not same?
opportunity ID and record ID is the same. See, there is only one ID, right? What is the confusion? There's only one ID on every record, which is your record ID. Right? So let's say opportunity 1 has X123 is the ID. This opportunity 2 has Y123 is the ID. And this has Z123 as the ID. Okay?
Right.
Now here, this one was closed one. This one was closed one. And this one was closed lost. This amount on the opportunity was 14,000. Okay. And this one was 15K and this one was 16K. Now here, it was closed one. You trying to update the amount on the opportunity from 14 to, so what will trigger.new will have? Trigger.new, this was, what did I tell you? This was the old, right? So this one, trigger.new, this you're trying to update it, 15, this is 16K and this is 17. So this is the new value, this is the old value, and this is the new value. This is the old value, and this is the new value. So now, when I say trigger.new, what will it give me? Trigger.new will give me this opportunity 1, this ID, this closed one is the current state. You didn't change it.
15,000.
And 15,000. So that it gave me the complete record.
Right.
Of all these three. So
and
first,
what will old map dot?
Old map will have this, and old value, which is 14,000.
And the record ID will be X123.
Exactly. The record ID will always be the same on old. That's how you are doing it because record ID won't change. That's how you are able to see. So trigger.new, you are iterate. So this is the map.
So op.id equal to op old.id should match, right?
Depending upon, okay, so trigger.new and trigger.old both are giving you, one is giving you the new version, one is giving you the old version.
Right,
But
where only the amount is changed. Everything else is same.
No, trigger.new.
In this case, since we are changing the amount on the conditions, everything except the amount will remain the same, right? In the old and the new, both
exactly. Amount will be amount
different.
is the only thing that will be different. Everything else, because we are not changing, everything else would be there in trigger.new. What I'm saying, my question is not that, my answer is that, okay, the list order might be different. That's what I'm trying to tell you. You might be comparing this first record with the first record, and that first record might not be the same. You know what I'm saying?
Okay.
I know. Okay, so this one is trigger.new. This has also X1, 2, 3. This is new. Okay. This is your new and this is your old, right? This has this order, X1, 2, 3, Y1, 2, 3, and Z1, 2, 3. Okay. This one has Z1, 2, 3 first, Y1, 2, 3 later, and X1, 2. How do you know that this might have the order in the same change. You know what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
Even though it has the same IDs, the order might not be same. So when you're trying to say, when you're trying to do it based on the just this trigger.new, how will you write the code? That's what you have to tell me. That okay,
Yeah,
instead
that's what I asked. So if I write, if in I create a opportunity variable one more, which is holding op old is equal to trigger dot old. Opportunity op old is equal to trigger dot old. Can I write that statement?
where
Inside the for loop?
you're making a nested for loop.
No, I'm not doing a for loop. I'm just asking, can I write a simple statement? Opportunity op old is equal to trigger dot old.
No, because opportunity old
Okay.
op is base. If I say this one old ops, this is not trigger.old. This is a list. So you will have to write a list of opportunity old ops.
Okay, trigger dot old will now that can
Trigger.old
work.
is
Okay, the reason we don't do this is because we will have to have one more iteration inside it. That's why we are using old map. That's why we're
trigger.new
using map.
is a list, right? That's why I'm iterating over. Similarly, you can do it. Trigger.old will be giving you a list back.
Right. If I use this statement, then I have to use a loop inside, complete
Yeah,
loop.
then you have to
Okay.
compare it, and then you have to make it
One more for loop.
Yeah.
Right. So iterations will be more.
Yeah, and then the other important thing is this is easy because
Right.
this is
Fast and easy.
Yeah, because the first time the opportunity ID you are passing, you're getting the old version of that record.
Yes.
You compare.
Only one iteration.
Yeah. Because trigger.old is giving you the list of old set of records.
Yes.
Not
this will
just
give me
one record.
directly one record, whereas that will give me the whole bunch, and then I have to iterate through it.
Again, within this loop.
Within the for loop, yes.
Yeah.
Got it.
Okay.
Yeah.
So now if I go over here, so this time this trigger is active and it's closed one. Now if I try to change it, so let's just refresh. And now if I try to change the details opportunity amount to, let's say, this amount, I will get an error message. And you can see here, amount and close date cannot be changed after closed one. And that is exactly the message I printed here. Okay. All good? Now, the other one is, let's say, do not allow deletion of an account if it has any opportunities or it has any cases which are not closed. Okay, so if let's say, so how will you do that? First, you need to figure out the accounts that you're trying to delete. Does it have any open opportunities or does it have any open cases? If either of these scenarios if this is going to give you true, that means you should not allow deleting that record. Okay. So here, what kind of trigger is that going to be? Before you hit the delete, right? So this is a before trigger. Did you understand why it is a before trigger? Because here, so first the ask is, if let's say, let's go here, we have an account record, okay, ABC Corp, and this account record has one opportunity and 0 cases. If I try to delete it, I wanted to throw an error message, okay, because this account has 1 opportunities. Right now, you are able to delete it because there is no trigger that takes care of it. But if you delete an account which has no opportunities and no cases, like in this case, there is no opportunities and there is no cases, here you should be able to delete it without any issue. Okay, so you only want to prevent those deletion which have an open opportunities and open cases. So we will go here, developer console, and we will create the trigger. So on which object the trigger will be? Write it down in the, and what will be the trigger on? What will be the event? What will be the trigger event and what will be the trigger on? Very good. Trigger will be on the account object, and what will be the event?
On delete.
Before delete. Okay. Very good. So here, let's say we go to File, New Apex Trigger, and account delete card is the name of the trigger. And it is on the account object, and hit submit. And here, before delete. Okay. I want to make sure I don't have any triggers on the account object. So here, this is one way. You can also, if you click on edit here, if you want to deactivate the trigger, there is a very small checkbox in order to deactivate the trigger. Means that trigger won't execute. Okay, so this is the one, just an important thing. Now here, going back, we will go over to our account delete trigger. It will get fired when any time you want to delete the account record. Okay, so this one, let's see what we are doing. Okay. First, we are basically this before delete. You want to know what all records are you trying to delete before they actually get deleted? What all records? So trigger.old, right? Because before you hit the delete, so trigger.old will give you those records. Okay. And you basically created a set of IDs. You created a set of IDs of those accounts that you're trying to delete. Okay. In this case, trigger.new will not work because you have already deleted them. And there's no delete new will be in this case. So trigger.old is going to give you all those account records which you are trying to delete. So you created a set of those account because you wanted unique IDs. So you created a set. Then you are basically, based on this account ID, you are checking, does this have any opportunities tied to these account IDs? Okay. And is closed, you're also checking the condition. If the is closed is equals to false, means if the opportunity exists where account ID in this and is closed, if this is the opportunity which is closed, then it is giving you all those opportunities. And if you remember, we are using count. We always get the aggregate result. Remember the class, it's because we're using count, we are arranging it. So here, let's say this is how you will do it. So if I run this query, and let's go over here and run this query. Not this one, this one. And if I run this query, account ID in, so let's give an account IDs. So let's say we gave this account ID, doesn't have an opportunity, does have an opportunity. So it gave you this, comma, another, so let's say this is in qualification. Then here, let's see, no opportunities. Let's create an opportunity. And this one, I will put it into closed one. Amount is this, close date is this, op1, and hit save. Okay. So the ID is this. So now this one will give you only one opportunity because it is only looking for those opportunities which are is closed is equals to false. So it is giving you those account records. Let me just get one more thing. I'm trying to expand it. Okay. Okay. So here, account ID, account dot name. Oh. Oh, field must be grouped or aggregated. Yeah, we don't want to do it based on that. So here, now if I go here and if you go view in Salesforce, it is giving you that account whose opportunity is not in closed one. Okay, this is in qualification. So when you put this is closed means equals to false means only give me those opportunities which are not in closed status. Okay, so let's say you're trying to delete these two records. So these two, what this query is doing, it is basically telling that, okay, is there any opportunities which is tied to these accounts and those opportunities stage is not closed, either closed won or either closed loss. Anything other than closed, give me the opportunities. Okay, that means there are open opportunities tied to that account. So that is what this query is going to give. And then what you're doing is you are basically creating a map. Okay, map of the account ID, which is nothing but the and how many opportunities are there. Okay, so here this is the result, right? You gave one count of this account. Similarly, if there was another account, let's say we go here and we go over to this one, and let's say this has an opportunity, and this opportunity is opportunity 2. Close date is 31. Amount is, this is the amount. Stage is prospecting, and hit save. So if I run this query again, if I run this query and I pass in this account ID, you will have another row now with one account has one opportunity and then this one has another one. So if you had another opportunity in this case, it will also show up. So then the count would be 2. So here opportunity 2, close date is 29th, amount is this, stage is value preposition, hit save. Okay, so now this is, now if I run the query, it will give me count of 2. For one, it will be 2 and then another one. So what you're doing here is you creating a map of the account ID. You're basically account ID versus the count. So if does that account has open opportunities? If it is, then you will throw an error message. And then here you are checking how many open cases are there with that account. So this one gives you how many opportunities for that account. This one gives you how many cases with open that are tied to that account. Okay. And you are basically creating a map of account ID with the number of cases. Any questions so far, guys? One map is of account ID with how many opportunities are open. Another map is of account ID with how many cases are open for that account. Just like you got this output, that is the exact output the query will give you in this format. 2, 1, and this is the account ID. This is number of opportunities tied to that account ID, which are not in closed status. Similarly, account ID with the opportunities that are not in closed status. Okay. Now here you have to block it, right? So again, you are going over the every account record you are trying to delete. And then you are checking, give me the opportunity count for that account ID and give me the case count. And if it is not null and it is greater than 0, or the case count is also greater than 0, either one, if opportunity count is greater than 0 or the case count is greater than 0, then throw this error message. Cannot delete account because it has. Now, if you want to customize the error message, then let's say you can add the count as well. Hey, because it has 5 open opportunities or it has 5 open cases. So then this message, you are appending it based on every account. So if one account has one open opportunity, it will say cannot delete account because it has one open opportunity and 0 cases. Okay, so this is just a customized way of putting it, and then you are throwing that error onto the screen. Any questions here? Guys, is it all clear or nothing is clear?
Can you go over that last half of it again where it says open case count by when you're doing the up above?
Which one?
A little bit higher. Yeah.
Line number. Give me the
Yes,
line.
it's the line number 27.
Okay.
So I'm getting a little confused there.
Okay, so this one, it is creating that map. So basically, you got this is the output of the query, right? This is the query that is giving you. What you're doing is you're creating a map from this response. Now the map is of, this is the map, is of the ID. This is the ID, comma, how many opportunities does it have? 2. Okay, so map of 001 kg, comma, 2. And then another item in that map is 001 GK, comma 1. This is the map that it is doing. So how do you create a map? You remember that we do map dot of put. Remember that is the method. Map dot of put. So this is the map. You're putting it. All they are doing is you are basically AR dot of get means from this result, give me the account ID, which will give you the ID of the account. You are just making sure it is of the type ID, so you're converting it into ID.
Okay.
And here, give me the count, which is CNT. So AR dot of get count is giving you the count and just making sure it is of the type integer, so you're converting it. That's it.
It's going to be the count of that opportunity or that case or whatever. Okay.
Okay. This will give you how many opportunities are open for that account. Okay.
Okay.
And this will give you this will give you how many cases are open with that account. And this will give you how many opportunities are open for that account.
Okay.
And
You got a
create a
line
map
for
of
each
it.
one. Okay.
And you created a map out of this. So then you are basically, so here if I try to delete this now. So this has 2 opportunities and 0 cases, right? And 2 opportunities are in open status, right? One is in prospecting, one is value proposition. So if I try to delete this, I should get an error message. Are you sure I want to delete this? Delete. Cannot delete account because it has 2 open opportunities. Okay? So you cannot delete it. So the account won't be deleted. Now, if you pick up another account, which had no opportunities and no cases. So this one has no opportunities and no cases. I should be able to delete it without any error. So if I try to delete this, then it got successfully deleted.
Okay.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
The examples I took is a little bit complex because see, I don't want to give you those examples which you can do it through the flows. So if you try to do with the flows, when you run it in a bulk operation, that might give you an error. So for these scenarios, I picked up a little bit challenging ones because the triggers you will be used only in the complex scenarios.
They're really good one. Yes, we need such type of things.
Yeah, if I wanted to do a simple one, everybody
No.
would be able to do it. This is a little bit challenging that, okay, figure out the open opportunities, figure out the open
Yes.
context and do that. Okay, now another example is do not allow contact to be inserted if account is inactive or account is blocked. So here, let's say we create fields on the account object. One is inactive and the other one is blocked. So let's create those fields, okay? So here, we will create is inactive. So active field would be there and blocked. So we will go over to the account object. So we go over here, we go to edit object, and we will add a field. Where do we have to add it? I want to make sure. On the account object. Okay. So here it is a active is checkbox. And what is the name?
Deepika, there was an active field on there.
Was it there?
That pick list field, could you
Oh, it is there. Okay, so let's just do is active. Okay, that is pretty good. I didn't realize it. So we do have active. And then let's also create blocked. This is a checkbox. Blocked. Next. Visible to all. Next. Save. Okay, so now we have active and then we also have blocked. So what are we doing? Do not allow contact to be inserted. So if you are trying to add a contact with in a particular account, if the account is in active status or account is in blocked status, you shouldn't tie those contacts to that account. You should prevent the creation of that contact. So is this what, okay, without looking at it, tell me on which object should I create the trigger for? And what is the event?
account?
Yeah.
And before insert or?
Okay, what am I trying to do?
Oh, you don't want them to be able to insert contacts?
Yeah, so what will be the trigger on?
So on the contact?
Excellent. And what is the event?
Before insert?
Very good. Okay, excellent. So here, because then what we're doing is, so this time trigger dot, so you're trying to insert, right? So trigger dot new is going to give you the, you haven't inserted it. Let's trigger dot new. You can't have trigger.old because trigger.old is those records have not been even existing, right? I want to check something.
We need account data. They're not the contact, right?
That you can figure out because when you're trying to insert an account, a contact, you can get the account ID from the contact, right?
Yeah, okay.
If it's a before insert with it.
Must be same, old and new.
No. What I'm trying to understand is the IDs are only generally the record descriptions in this one second they're working the records before they're committed finalized before empty. Okay, so always remember. Okay, so I just wanted to check something. Oh, okay, I was right. It's fine. So here, this is the contact account validation. So first of all, it is on before you insert the record, okay? Or it can also be before you update the record. So let's just do it before insert, okay? So here, this is your trigger, contact account validation. It is on contact object, and when it is on anytime you're trying to insert a new contact. Now, when you're trying to insert a contact, there is account, you have to choose an account also, right? If you want to tie that contact to the account. So here, what you're doing is we are basically checking what is the active flag and blocked flag on the account. And if it is true, you're throwing an error message. A very simple trigger. So here, I'm going to go ahead and create a trigger here.
Do you need to change your active field because you were included the custom one versus the standard? Was that a
No, it's a custom field. We don't have an active field on
Oh, okay.
it was a custom one. So we are creating a contact account validation, and this is on contact object. So I'm going to select a contact from the list. So here is my contact. Submit it. Okay. Contact account validation on contact before insert. So now always remember, if you are doing a before insert operation, okay, before insert means the record has not been inserted. If you are using trigger dot of new, this will give you the new version of the record. This will not have the IDs, okay, of that newly, because the record has not yet been inserted. Just a point to remember, okay? So now if I go here, this is my code. Let me just copy it. Okay. What are we doing here? So we created a set, okay? We are creating a set of records. What is the line number? If account is not equals to null and what is the error here? Account active. Oh. Select ID, comma, active, comma, blocked from account. Where? Okay, let's just do this. Oh, Jesus. This was not a checkbox, this was a pick list. Okay, is active equals to, not equals to, yes. Okay. Okay, so I didn't realize that active is not a Boolean field, but a pick list field. Okay, so what are we doing here? We are checking, first give me all the contacts that I'm trying to insert. Now on those contacts, I might populate the account ID, right? I can create contacts without the account tied to it, or I can create it with the account. So let's say I'm trying to tie that contact to an account. So from the account ID field, I am fetching all these account IDs and I'm creating a set of those account IDs. Okay, so now I got all the account IDs, and now I will do a query on those account IDs and fetch the active flag and the blocked flag, where the ID in this one. Okay, and then I'm creating a map of ID comma account. So ID of the account and the whole information. Then you are iterating over those trigger.new means those contacts you're trying to insert. And if there is account ID not equals to null, you are doing from this map, you are fetching the account itself. And then you are checking, is the active flag yes, or if it is blocked. If either one, if active flag is not yes and it is blocked, if either of these conditions are true, this is the error you're going to get. Okay, so first what we are doing, let me explain. First, we are creating a set of all the account IDs. Okay, we are creating a set of account IDs. Then you are querying all the accounts with those account IDs. Okay, so you're querying the active field and the blocked field account IDs. Then you created a map of ID and the account. Then you are iterating over all the newly created contacts. And then you are basically checking if the account tied to the contact is not active, or it is blocked, then it is going to give you an error. This is the whole code that you're trying to do. Here we created a set of all the accounts that are you trying to add contacts to. Then we are querying all those accounts that you're trying to add contacts. We are querying the active flag and the blocked flag. Then we are checking, whatever we are trying to insert, we are iterating over those. And here we are checking, hey, is the account.active not equals to yes? Means if the account is not active, and if it is blocked, either one, this is the error message that will be thrown. Any questions on this one? Take a look at it. Any questions on this one? Okay. So here, let's say I go to this active flag is yes, right? So let's say I go to this account, view in Salesforce, and to this account, I am trying to add a contact. Okay, so we'll go here, add a contact. Oh, I should have picked up something where it is not there. So this account, view in Salesforce. So here, this is the account where the active is not equals to yes. Okay, so if I try to add a last name, Heyman, and try to add it, I'm expecting an error. You can see here, cannot add contact to an inactive or blocked account. But if I would have picked up this account, okay, view in Salesforce, if I picked up this account, which is active, and I try to add a contact related to that. Now, in this case, it is going to be, if I do, this wall will work. The contact will be added because it is an active account. Okay, any questions so far, guys? Are you liking it so far? Is it too complicated? Are you following? What's going on? Any feedback?
Oh, I like it because
Easy.
it's more real world scenarios. So that's what we're gonna see.
Exactly. Okay. So now
Deepika,
yeah.
would you mind explaining the pseudocode of this, not the logic, basically, not the whatever is there? I mean, how do you approach it, basically?
So first of all, like anytime this is going to come with practice, first of all, okay? So it is asking you, what is it asking? It is asking you if an account that is if the contact you're trying to insert has an inactive account, then you should not allow it. Okay, so what did you do? First, you need to figure out all the account IDs. Now we need to do it like this because you only want to have one query. You don't want to run inside a query inside of a for loop because it will run into governor limits. So first we will collect all the IDs. Okay. First we will collect all the IDs for the accounts. Then we will go ahead and query because you wanted to query those accounts, and then we will query the active flag and the ID of those accounts and the blocked flag. And from this, we created a map. So we will have, let's say X111 is the ID and this is your account record. This another one, X12 is the ID, then another account record. Then what you're doing is you are iterating over the trigger.new means all those contacts you are trying to insert. Okay. In this case, trigger.old will not work because the records don't even exist. So there was no prior version of them. Okay. So here trigger.new is giving you all the contacts you're trying to insert. And then those contacts will have the account ID, right? Some of them, if you're trying to set up, then you are checking, hey, does this map consist of those account ID X11? Yes, it does. So give me the account tied to this ID. So from here, you want to check the active flag and the blocked. And if it is not equals to yes, and the blocked is equals to true, this is the error you want to throw. What did you not understand, Hema, in this one?
It's mostly the practice, I believe, like, yeah.
I'll give you some assignments on Monday with these triggers. So things will, more you practice, it'll become better. This is the first time you're looking at it. So yeah, it might be a little overwhelming.
Yeah.
So, Deepika, I know you're showing the logic here in this trigger for demonstration purposes, but you were saying that you would want to call a class to do that.
Exactly. So you basically, from this logic, we will move this logic over to an Apex class. And from the trigger, all we will do is call the Apex class. That is it.
Okay.
Okay. I do have an example for that also. But before I do it, I also want to talk about, this is the example I wanted to talk about. But before I do this, I also want to talk about an important concept is recursion. Okay. Recursion is is everybody okay to proceed?
Yeah.
Okay. So this is one of the very common questions you might come across in the interview is how to prevent recursion. Recursion means, let's say there is a trigger on the account. Okay. There's a trigger on the account on update. Means, okay, anytime an update happens, you basically update a contact. And let's say on the contact, there is a trigger, you update the account. Okay. So now this will run into a loop, right? Because what happens is when you're trying to do an update, then that update is triggering another update, which is basically triggering the trigger again. So this is called as recursion. Recursion triggers happen when a trigger causes another DML operation that refires the same trigger directly or indirectly. So when you have a trigger, that trigger is doing another DML operation, and that DML operation fired the same trigger. Okay, that can result into recursion, which is bad. So how do you prevent recursion? So the way to prevent recursion is through a static variable. Okay, remember the use of static variable. This is a very important use of static variable. So we create a flag, a static flag, and we set up the flag to false. Okay, if that trigger has already run or is it running, we set the flag to true. And once the trigger has finished, then we basically reset the flag. Okay, so that way, through this way, we are preventing recursion to happen. So let me show you. First of all, when the recursion happen, you are updating the same object inside its own trigger. Means within the trigger, you are updating the same object, which will also trigger the same trigger, and it will run into the recursion. Two objects updating each other. So you from account, you update the contact, and then there is a trigger on the contact which does an update on the account. So this will also result into recursion. Multiple triggers firing in one transaction. After triggers doing DML on parent record. So you have an after trigger, okay, that there is a trigger whenever you update an account, the contact will get updated. Now contact, once it gets updated, is doing an update on the account as well. So this is another one that will causes DML operations. Okay, so you have to prevent it because this will result into a loop. So whenever an account is updated, update a field on the account itself. So let's say, and you're doing an after update, which is a bad idea, which is completely bad idea that if you are doing changes on the same record, so let's say you updated the account and now you, if that there is a trigger and you want to update some other fields on the same object, it should happen in the before update. If you're making the changes in the same account object. Okay. So always remember that. So this will result into, why will it result into a infinite loop? Can anybody explain to me? Can anybody tell me why this is a bad example?
Because there can be a trigger on update already, so
No,
that
this
will
is
fire,
no.
and then
This is
after update it will again off.
See, this is the trigger which is getting fired. So you
After update.
created a trigger on after update.
Yeah.
So what you did, you went over to an account record and you updated the industry. Moment you updated the industry, this is the trigger, it's getting fired.
Yes.
Okay. And then it is an after update. Ideally, it should be a before update.
Yeah.
Okay. But if by mistake the developer has written an after update, then here you are basically updating the description now. And you have an update query. Here, update the account. So what this is going to do, this will fire the same trigger again.
Yes.
Okay. So
Yeah,
this
it
is
should be before
recursion.
update. Yeah.
See, this is the trigger. It gets fired on after update. And then again, you are doing an update, which is going to fire the same trigger. So how will you prevent it? The way to prevent it is by using a static variable. Okay. So here, what you're doing is, you created a static variable called Boolean. It's of the type Boolean, and this is the name of the variable is account trigger running. Okay. You are still fixed trigger using static guard. So you still doing an after update. Okay. But what we are doing is you're checking what is the variable value. And if the variable value is true, that means the trigger is currently already running. So you don't want to rerun it again. So this will return, means it will go back. If the variable value is not, if it's false, you're setting it up to true, means, okay, now the trigger has started running. And here it is, you created a list of accounts that you're trying to update, and you're iterating over those accounts which are being updated right now. And you are doing a description update. And then here you have update accounts to update. So what will happen is it will prevent the trigger to get fired again, because once you have set this flag to true, it won't get fired again. Okay, let's do an example. So first of all, let's see if I go here, I will create this trigger. But before I create the trigger, let me set up the trigger too. Let's go to Apex triggers. And let's just go to account delete card and delete the trigger. I want to do prevent it. So now this is on contact. This is an opportunity. We don't care. Now if I go here, developer console, and this is the trigger I'm running. File, close all. Okay, we create an account trigger. First, I will show you without the trigger. So account bad trigger. File, new, epic. Oops. File, new, Apex trigger. This is the name. It is on account. And this is on after update. Okay, so anytime you update the account record, you are doing another, or we will say trigger dot of new. Yeah, you can do that also. So it is going to fire the trigger again. Now you will run into recursion in this case. Okay, so if I update the account record, so if I go here, let me get rid of all these unnecessary ones. Okay. So here, this is my trigger that I'm creating, and it's an after update trigger. So when this trigger will be fired, you will go here, account one, and you will go ahead and update something. Let's say you update the account number. Now, if you try to hit save, execution of after caused by final record is read-only trigger, line number 3, column 1. Record is read-only trigger. It is giving you a final exception, and you got an exception here. Why? Oh, wait a minute. Wait a minute. I'm not doing this. Okay, so let's just do this. And here we will update the account 1 details. And let's say we update the rating. Why is account read only? Doesn't make sense to me. Okay. Trigger dot of new is going to give you, this makes more sense in the before trigger, because you're going to do that. Let me just make it this way. Okay, so then let's just do this, and let's go ahead and I'll have to give you a better example of recursion. So now if I try to do rating is hot, and then here, this will work fine. Description got updated. Where is description? You don't have a description here. Okay, updated. So this description is updated. But when you, okay, so I have to figure out a better example for this. This won't work because it is causing an issue in the after update, because after update will not have, because the record has already been updated. So another important point you have to remember is whenever you are doing this one, I'll give you an example tomorrow in the case of recursion, how to prevent recursion. So whenever you are updating the same records, okay, let's say you updated the account records, right? And you want to update other fields on these account records. So will you use before update or will you use after update? If let's say you're updating a account now, and along with that account, let's say you're updating the industry through the UI, and there are certain fields you wanted to update on the account object itself. Will you do it in a before trigger or in an after update trigger? So will you use before update or after update?
Before?
Before, yeah.
Excellent. Before update. Okay, because you don't want to trigger, this will cause multiple triggers, right? Triggering of this will cause another trigger and this go into recursion. So always remember to use when you're updating the same. But let's say on update of the account, you want to create a new contact. Now this can happen in after update. Okay, because you're making a change onto a different object. Whenever you're making a change to the same object, use before. When you're making a change to another object, then you can use after. Okay? And the reason you have to do it in the after, because let's say you want to tie this contact to this account, the trigger, the ID won't be there in the before insert. So you will have to use after insert or after update. Does it make sense?
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay. Now this recursion, I'll give you another example tomorrow, but another important point is the order of execution. So what will be the order of execution if, let's say, we have the account before, and let's say we have a before trigger and we also have a before flow. Which one will get executed first? On the same object.
The flow?
Before flow and then before trigger. I'm not
So
very sure,
yes.
but okay.
So first the flow will get executed and then the trigger will get executed. Okay, so remember T comes later than F. So remember that. Okay, so there is an order of execution and I'll show you how to test it. So the testing is let's say we create a flow and we also create a trigger. And the trigger we will create is this is the trigger we will create. Where is the example of the trigger? Okay, so this is your before trigger, account before trigger on the account, and it is whenever you're trying to insert anything on the account object, this trigger is gonna get fired. Okay, so here this is your file, new file open. Let me see what are the existing triggers we have on the account object, and I want to get rid of those first. I'm gonna delete this. Delete this. Okay. So file, new, developer console, and then let's create a new trigger. File, and the name of the trigger is account before trigger. Now somebody explain to me what are we doing here, okay? This is the name of the trigger. It is on account object, and all it is doing is iterating over. Okay, so it is iterating over the accounts that you're trying to insert, okay? And if you haven't provided the industry on that account, you're setting up the industry to description, and you are setting up the, industry to technology, and you're setting up the description to trigger ran. And then here you are just making sure if, let's say you added a lot of spaces in the account name, it is just trimming that account name, okay? Now this is a before insert, means this trigger will get fired before the account actually gets committed to the database, and it will update all these fields. Now let's say we also have a flow, and what the flow is doing. So flow, let's say we create a flow here, and we go over to new flow, and it is on the account object. So this is a record trigger flow again. Okay, so this is a record trigger flow. It is happening on which object? On the account object, when a record is either created or updated. So we will leave it record is created, and we want to do fast field updates. Fast field updates means we are updating the same account record, which is triggering this flow. Okay, when you have to do an after save, means you want to update related records, you will use this option. Here we will use fast field because we want to update the fields on the record that triggered the flow to run. So this is the one. And here we will, let's say, use assignment. And here we are updating, setting rating and description. Okay, so the variable, the triggering account rating is in field available, account rating, and we will set this to hot. And let's say we will also set the description to flow ran. Okay, so this is what we are doing, and hit save. Record triggered flow, and hit save. Activated. So now tell me, if I go ahead and insert a new account, what will be the description of this account? Will it say trigger ran or will it say flow ran? And what will be the rating and what will be the industry? So this is what we did before I explain, and I hope I'm not going too fast. So we have a trigger and we also have a flow. Trigger is doing two things. If the industry is blank, it is setting up the industry to technology. And it is also setting up the description equals to trigger ran. And then it is just trimming the account name. Trimming the account name means it will remove any extra spaces. That's simple. What is the flow doing? The flow is, on the other hand, is updating the rating to hot and description to flow ran. Okay, now if I insert an account record, what will be the industry of that account? What will be the rating of the account? And what will be the description of that account? Tell me in the comments.
The industry will be technology, rating is hot, and description is trigger ran.
Excellent, excellent. Why did I say that? Because this one came, because what I told you, flow will run first and trigger will run later. So in this case, flow is updating the rating to hot and description to flow ran. Whereas this will be overridden by this description. Okay, so industry would be technology, trigger ran, and account trim will happen and rating would be hot. Did everybody understood the order of execution here?
Yes.
Okay, so now if I go ahead and go over to the account and we go to new and we will go ahead and create H&B. And we don't provide rating, we don't provide industry, we don't provide description. So we go ahead and hit save here. And you will see in the details, industry is technology, rating is hot, and where is the description? Description is trigger ran. Because even though you're trying to set up in the flow, but this one will take precedence because trigger will run after your flow. Okay? Any questions so far, guys?
So Deepika, when the flow runs, the validation rules will fire and then the trigger, apex trigger will run, right?
So this is, okay, so there is this whole order of execution, okay? So you probably have to remember this, the order of execution, but what this order of execution is basically will tell you what will execute first and what will execute later, okay? And what Salesforce will execute first. Because there can be validation rules, there can be before triggers, after triggers, escalation rules, assignment operators, assignment rules, etc., right? So this is the first thing. It will load the initial record. If the request came from a standard UI, means UI, let's say you edited the record or edited the page, Salesforce will run system validation to check the record for page layout specific rules, field definition, and maximum field length. Means just the basic page layout issues. So if you have set up the field characters to be 18 characters long, such kind of things, or default value is so that will run first, not the regular validation. This is just your field specific validation that you've added in the while you're creating the fields. Okay. Then the before record trigger flow will get executed that we just saw. So before trigger flow will get executed, then it will run all the before triggers. After the flow, it will run the before triggers. Then if you have any custom validations, if you have created any validation rules, those will get executed. Okay, so remember, the way to remember some of it is, this is your first, it will run the flow. Okay, so first, where did it go? First, the flow will run, then it will run, the before flow will run, then the before trigger will run, then the validation will run, then after the validation is done, the duplicate rules. So duplicate rules will run, which will decide, do they match, do they not match, is there a duplicate exist for this record, those will run. And then after that, the record is saved to the database, but it has not been committed yet. Okay, it's just transaction is not final, it is just saved to the database. Then after triggers will get executed, then after trigger will get executed, then you have is the assignment rules will get executed. then auto response rules will get executed. So this is the complete order of execution that will get executed once you hit save on the record. And you probably have to remember it. Okay, at least the major ones, what get executed, which flow get executed or trigger will get executed, when will validation rules will get executed. So you have to remember at least these things. Now, after triggers will get executed first, and then the after flows will get executed. Okay, so if the record was updated with workflow field, fires before update triggers and after update trigger one more time, in addition to the standard validations. So after triggers, and then you have is the before triggers, and then you have is the, now what will be the order of after flow and after trigger? That is something you will test it. Okay, that is an assignment. So I gave you an example of before trigger and before flow. Similarly, you create in after trigger and after flow and see did the after flow got executed first or the after trigger got executed first. Can you do that as an assignment? Because if you do this, you will remember at least the flow and the trigger, which is the most common one. Okay, so this is the order of execution. Once we will do more examples, we will come back to this order of execution, but this is more of learning and remembering it. And this is the order of executions that it will run. So you will have regular things, then flows, then triggers, then validation rules, duplicate rules, after triggers, and then after flows will be executed. Okay, but this is just giving you an overview of order of execution. We might come to it later also once we have done everything related to Apex. Then we will come back to the order of execution, just to glance through it one more time. But this is the order of execution that you need to remember from exam, not from exam perspective won't be that difficult, but from interview perspective, you should know at least the flow and triggers order of execution. Did you understand today's class? Any questions?
Yes, we did.
Okay.
So triggers, can we have triggers on custom objects?
Oh, yes. Triggers can be on any type of object, on custom object, on standard objects, anywhere.
Okay.
Okay. Tomorrow I do have that recursion to show you, but after that we will pick another topic. Do you want more examples on the trigger, or can we continue to the next topic?
We can continue to next and give us as assignments.
Yeah, assignment, I'll give it to you by Monday.
Yeah.
And Deepika, what about because I'm new to coding, what about when it comes to before you start coding, mapping out the logic first? So I mean, because a lot of times when I'm trying to code, I'm trying to figure out what to place where. So are there any tips you could give us to that as to how to map out the logic first before you start to code anything? You know what I'm saying?
Oh, I know what you're saying. It's just that I'll give you like certain tips how to approach it, but you should at least have this, like, if you want to, like, if I tell you, for example, it comes, first of all, it comes with practice, but one thing I can tell you is you have to you look at this scenario first. Okay. When you look at the scenario, you figure out what are we supposed to do. Okay. Like, let's say you are trying to update contact record. Now, before you update a contact record, you need to first see does that contact record exist? So you have to query that record. Okay. Then you also need to remember that the records that you're trying, the query also needs to include the fields you're trying to update. So you have to go one step at a time. And towards the end, I will say we can do these scenario-based questions where you will just have to give me pseudocode. That way it will make you think what I'm supposed to do, just the pseudocode.
Okay. Yeah, that would help a lot.
That'll kind of, and I can give you some assignments where you just have to write pseudocode. Okay, do this, do this, do this, do this. That way. But this is something you will only learn with practice. There's no like for triggers, if you're updating a contact, you know that okay, first I need to see the IDs of those contacts, see the what fields that I'm trying to update, and then do the update operation. But once you get into the practice of writing pseudocode and you've at least done 300 to 400 examples, then things will get more clear in your head.
Right.
Okay.
Then it's just a matter of just learning the coding and which
Yeah.
one applies to it. Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
Okay, guys, that's it for today's class. I will see you tomorrow at same time.
One other question I had for you, I'm sorry. What about where can we get a review? In other words, for the classes that we're having here, you put it on the chat area. Where can we review the classes that we've had and others and give you a rating for the whole class? You know what I'm saying?
Okay, I want you to, if you don't mind, you can put it on Google review.
Okay, where? Okay,
So if you go,
is there somewhere on your website or?
No. Preference would be if you go to MyTutorialRack. Okay, yesterday I sent. If you go to MyTutorialRack and if you just Google it, what does it show you? Can you share your screen for a minute? Or if anybody else can just what do you see when you just say MyTutorialRack? It will show you my Google listing, right?
Just see. Okay. Yeah, it just says, I mean, it comes to your home website.
No, but can you share the screen, Linda, if you don't mind?
Sure.
Mean by Google listing?
I can share if it is not working
Yeah,
with
even I
Linda.
can.
Okay. If you see there, then you should also see, yeah, just share it.
Just give me a moment.
I've got mine.
Okay.
I think I just shared it.
So now if you go to just Google.
Yeah.
No, don't go to the website. Just look for MyTutorialRack on Google. Search Google just in the.
Okay.
In that search, don't put .com.
Oh,
you went
put
to .com
okay.
again. So just in the search, in this Google search, put it.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Yeah, in here. So put in MyTutorialRack. Enter it. Might not be the right. See here on the right, you see the
over here.
Yeah, just put a review here.
Oh, okay.
That'll be the best.
I'm sorry. Okay.
Okay.
All right. Thanks.
Okay, guys. Tomorrow, let's see what I don't know what I'll be teaching tomorrow, but hopefully, something interesting. Okay, guys. Thank you.
Thank you.